Hi, my name's Todd McLeod. I work with Dennis, and I'm like the resident GitHub expert at Fresno City College. And so Dennis wants you to have an assignment where you're going to be using GitHub. And Dennis said, Todd, you know GitHub so thoroughly. Will you sit down with me and just slam out some videos for my students? So that's what we're doing right now.
That's right. We're going to slam these out.
Slam them out. And this is GitHub is version control software. And so here's a quick history behind GitHub. But Linux was started by Linus Torvalds, like way back in the 90s, probably before you were born. And Linux had to have some sort of software to allow thousands of developers around the world to work together. And so they had some version control software that they were using. And the software that they were using was a commercial product that the company let them use for free until 2005. And then that company, which was allowing Linux to use this version control software to coordinate the efforts of thousands of developers around the world to create Linux, that company in 2005 said, you now need to start paying us money. Linus Torvalds told them to go pound sand, and he said, I'm going to create my own version control software. So in 2005, Linus Torvalds created Git. And so Git is version control software, and you'll see what that kind of does in a second. But it allows you to keep track of all of your code as you're writing code. And so he created that in 2005. In 2008, another group of individuals said, wow, Git is really amazing. And they created this website called GitHub, which is built on top of Git. So GitHub is now the industry de facto standard for like version control software, which is basically keeping track of your code as you develop it. So you could see these different milestones in your code. And if you ever want to go back and look, what's my code look like a week ago, a month ago, a year ago, you could go back and look at your code at that point. It's kind of like Facebook for programming, for writing code. Because just like Facebook has a timeline where you can go back and look, oh yeah, there's my summer vacation. Oh yeah, that's what I was doing 9 months ago. And you could see that. In GitHub, you could go back and look at your code back in time. So it's kind of cool. And the end of that story with Linus Torvald and Linux is that GitHub has destroyed the competition for all version control software. So that company that originally asked Linus Torvalds to pay, I'm sure they're out of business. I haven't looked into it, but GitHub is the industry de facto standard for version control software. If you're going into programming, you absolutely have to know how to use GitHub. It's one of the things employers look at to determine whether or not they want to hire you. So you need to start using it today, and I'm here to show you how to use it. So the first thing you need to do is you need to go to GitHub and create a user account. And the first time you come to GitHub, it'll look like this. I'm just going to get rid of my user account like that. And so it's a pretty straightforward process. You just sign up and choose a username. And when you choose a username, you'll probably want to choose, your name if possible, or something reasonable, something professional. Don't get like a stupid email that's like, hard rockin' drinking guy, right? Like that's not going to be professional. Me, I even chose one that's a little bit unprofessional, but I'm tenured, so what's it matter? That was before I knew I probably should have chose something more professional. So here's my GitHub account. And when you have a GitHub account, you'll have repositories. These are often referred to as repos. And repositories or repos are like places where you keep your code. And you can have as many repos as you want. And FYI, if you go to GitHub Student, right, you could sign up for the GitHub Student Developer Pack. You do not get a free backpack. That's just an image.
I want a free backpack.
I do too. But you just get a bunch of other free stuff, right? And so one of the things that you get that's free for students is you get private repositories. So right here you can see I have a private repository. Only I could see the code in there. Nobody else can. All right, so that's the basics of it. So how do I create a new repo? To create a new repo, either inside repos, I click this big green button repo, or I just click create new repository, either one. All right, so I'm going to create a new repo, and then I give it a name, sample FCC, whatever you want to call it. You're in a Java class, you might call it, what's the number of your class?
CIT 63.
You might call it CIT 63.
And Todd, is there a convention like mixed case or Camelback style for the repository name?
That's a good question.
I noticed you all have
all lowercase.
Lowercase.
Yeah. Stick with all lowercase just because you're going to be working at the command line, and some command lines are case sensitive. So just stick with all lowercases. Do not use spaces. If you need a space, use a dash.
Great.
All right, if you
Great
need
answer.
to separate words. I don't know if that's the standard convention. That's the Todd convention. So all you do is type in a name, and you're going to click Create Repository. That's it. Don't do anything else here, okay? Create Repository. And so now I've got some code, and we're going to work at the command line. So the command line, there's two types, two flavors of command lines that are out there. There's a command line that's like Unix-based. There's a command line that's DOS-based. The Unix-based command line is like for Mac, for Linux, for Unix. It's kind of collectively known as the POSIX, P-O-S-I-X. Right? That's like one type of command line. The other type of command line is DOS. Right? So you could get to DOS in Windows by typing in CMD, and it'll bring up a little program, cmd.exe. You click that, you're at the command line for Windows. And I think we're going to create a video for you on Windows how to do this. But here's the Mac one. So I got these things. Now I need a place to keep my code, right? So I'm going to go create a folder on my machine. I'm going to call it the same thing, sample FCC, right? So I'll just go somewhere on my desktop or wherever in my documents, and I'll create a new folder, sample FCC, and then I'm going to navigate to that folder in my terminal. So if my terminal wasn't already running, I would go up to Finder in Windows, or however you get to your command line, Linux, Unix, Mac, and you bring up your terminal. And now I'm going to navigate to this folder. So terminal commands on Mac, Unix, Linux, one of them is CD, change directories. And I could also do ls, so I could list. And right where I'm at, it shows me the different folders and the different files, right, with ls. So ls is one command. Get a pen and a piece of paper and write these down if you're doing Linux, Mac, Unix. So ls-la is another command. List all gives you more information. So it gives you file information, file permissions. It shows you the hidden files. So ls is one of your commands. ls space -la is another one. So there's ls space -la. There's ls. And then another one is print working directory. What directory am I in? So when I do my ls, I see that documents is one of the folders I have here. So I'm going to cd into documents. So you should now have 4 commands on your piece of paper. Print working directory, pwd, ls, list, ls space -la, that's called a flag, right? And that lists all, so it gives you like all of the hidden files, directory permissions, all that. cd, which changes directory, so I just went into documents. If, now that I'm in documents, I wanted to go back up to my user account home folder, cd space .. And that takes me up a level. So that's another command to add to your page. cd space .. goes up a level. Right? So now I'm back into users TM002, and I can change back into documents. Tab will complete Word, so I just type DOC, hit tab, it completed it for me. I'm back in documents. If I list what is here, I did Command K, cleared out my terminal, Command K, add that to your list. If I clear that out and now I do an ls, I see that I've got that sample FCC folder. I'm going to change into that folder. And now Command K to clear that out. Print working directory. I'm in sample FCC. I can do an ls-la. That's all that's in there. There's nothing in there. I'm now going to use git commands. So draw a line on your piece of paper. All of the commands I was showing you before, those are terminal commands for Unix, Linux, Mac, right? Now we're going into commands which are GitHub commands. These commands will be the same on Windows or Mac. All right? The commands that I showed you above the line just a moment ago, those are only going to be good on Mac, Unix, Linux. The ls-a, ls space -la, pwd, cd, right? cd space .. Those commands are only good on Mac, Linux, Unix. But the commands I'm showing you now, git init, that is good either one. So git init is going to initialize a Git repository. I hit enter, and now that's been initialized. If I do an ls-la again, I can see I went from having this to I now have .git right there. So I have a Git repository initialized. All right, that's step one. We've got a Git repository. Next thing we need to do is it's a really good idea to add a git ignore file. If you are using IntelliJ and JetBrains, you're going to come to my GitHub account. Goes to 11, so you could also just alternatively just Google GitHub Todd McLeod, and it'll give you a link to my GitHub account. And when you come here, go to HTML, CSS, and then go down to git ignore, and then click raw, right? So I did that kind of quick. Todd McLeod, go into my repos, click on HTML CSS. That's just one of my repos where I have a git ignore. Scroll to the bottom, we got git ignore. Click that link, click raw, and now I'm going to be able to copy this git ignore file. So I just need to have that called .gitignore, right? That name right there. So inside WebStorm, which is JetBrains' version of IntelliJ for the web, or inside of IntelliJ, we're going to close whatever's open, go to open, go to that deal you just created, that folder you just created. So I put it documents and sample FCC. I'm going to open that folder. This is where I'll keep all of my code in this repo. And I'm going to right click and choose new and choose file, and then do .gitignore. And it has to be spelled just like that, .gitignore, .gitignore, okay? Has to be spelled just like that. Hit OK. Do you want to add the following file to Git? Yeah. Remember, don't ask again. Yes. There you go. Now paste in that gitignore stuff. That's going to ignore some files and folders that IntelliJ creates automatically, that WebStorm, JetBrains products creates automatically. You don't want all that crap pushed up to your GitHub account, so that's all going to be ignored. That's what gitignore does. So we've added a file now to our GitHub account, right? And if I do another ls-la, I can see, okay, there's that gitignore, and you know what? That IDEA folder was added too. Hopefully this will work. Because usually you want this in there before that shows up, and sometimes I even put that in there before I put that in there. So I put the gitignore in, and then I do my git init, which gives me this, and then I open up WebStorm later. I guess I could just recursively remove with force, remove recursively with force.idea, and now that one's gone. Okay, so when it gets added back in, it'll be in there. All right, so that's good for that. So now let's finish out setting up and connecting GitHub to the cloud. Oh no, I closed it. Well, let's get back there. GitHub goes to 11, repositories, sample FCC, and here are the setup instructions. So that's where we left off. All right, so we did git init, and you don't need to worry about adding a README, and we're going to do the first commit. So we just copy that. And there's a couple of commands which I'll go through with you, which you absolutely have to know, but that's one of them, git commit, and then -m. And basically it's saying we're making a commit. So at this point, take a snapshot, take a picture, and put it on my timeline. That's basically what it's saying, to use the Facebook analogy. And so you say make a commit and give it a message, and you just put whatever message you want in there. And then you'll always be able to look back at your commits and see what you're doing with your code. All right, so I did my git commit. I think I forgot to do the git add. I need a git add, so I'm going to do git add -- all. So you got to do that before the commit. And there was a git add readme. I may be confusing you, but I will go through this all again. And then I'm going to do the git commit once more, and then I need to do this one right here. And then once I've done that one, I do this one. That's it. Branch master subtract remote branch master from origin. Okay, and now if I go back and I click on sample FCC, I've got my gitignore file there. So now when I go into WebStorm, and I go into my sample FCC, I could create stuff, create a new HTML file, index. Yes. And H1 hello world. Okay, close that. I can come back to my terminal. So now here are the commands you need to know. So these are the commands for GitHub. Git status. So it gives you a status. It tells me there's a new file, index.html. Cool. Well, let's make a commit. To make a commit, I have to do a git add -- all. This adds things to a staging area, and I'll tell you what a staging area is in a second. So git status is one of your git commands. First we had git init, and then once we have initialized a repo, and you only want one repo, you do that once, you initialize your repo, and then you follow those instructions on that page right here. right? So you initialize it, you do a git add dash dash all, not that, right? But dash dash all. You do a git commit, and then you do this line, and then you do this line. That's the very first time when you're just setting up your repo and connecting it with a folder on your computer. Now that we've done that, we will use these commands. We use git status, we get the status, and then we do a git add dash dash all. And then we could do a git status again to see how things have changed. Now it's just green, cool, change colors, don't worry about it. And then once we've done the git add, we do a git commit, give it a message, so we have to have the -m flag, and adds index.html, so some descriptive message to what's this code about that you're pushing up. So we git commit that, and then we git push it. That's it. That's all you got to know about GitHub. Those commands right there. Git status, git add dash dash all, git commit -m adds index.html, and then git push. Those are the commands you use 95% of the time when working with GitHub. You get the status, you add everything to a staging area, you commit it with a message, and then you push it up. And when you push it up,
status, add, commit,
push.
Push.
When you push it up, well, I just went into the wrong one.
FCC.
When you push it up, there it is. There's my code. And I can look at my commits. So it keeps a log of all my commits. Right? And so employers are going to look at this. They're going to look at your code. They're going to look to see how active are you? Right? How many commits are you making a day? How many total contributions? Calculated from commits, but anybody could write a program to make 1,000 commits a day. So it actually kind of figures out what's the quality, how much code are you pushing up, how many contributions in the last year, what's your longest streak. So when you look at stuff like this, like if I look at my friend, when I saw my friend Zeno Rocha's GitHub account for the first time, I'm like, whoa, Zeno's busy, right? 2,500 contributions in the last year, 26 days straight is his longest streak. That guy works. Cool, that makes me interested in hiring him. Right, so that's GitHub. And last thing I'll show you is if you screw up the process, just click on your repo, sample FCC, go into settings, and inside settings, scroll down to the danger zone, right, and delete this repo, and put in the name of the repo, sample FCC. And I'm getting rid of sample FCC. All that code is now deleted, that repo is deleted, and on my computer, I could come in here and I could delete this folder and I could start all over. So if I screw it up, delete it, start all over. That's the easiest way to fix it. And then just start putting your code in there. And I really recommend some sort of, when you're in a class and you're learning things. Now this isn't good coding practice in most situations. And by the way, in WebStorm or IntelliJ, you can click this little X to get rid of things over here you don't want. But I really recommend in your code, and I guess we could just look at this at GitHub.
And Todd, while you're mentioning getting rid of things, does GitHub open your computer to hackers any more than any other program?
Well, if you put up things in your code, which would do it, yeah, right? Like if you're putting up things which somehow reveal confidential information, then yes. So you got to think about what you're putting up there because everybody in the world can see it. But just using GitHub, no, not at all, like that I'm aware of. I've never heard of anybody being hacked through GitHub or Git. It's just a website, username, credential, normal issues. But just be mindful of what you put up here. So last thing I was going to say is I recommend using some sort of numeric numbering scheme. So sequentially, as you're going through a class, your code is laid out in sequence, right? As you're doing stuff. So I really recommend prefixing with numbers like that so that you have a sequence of code as you go through a class. All right, I hope you've enjoyed that. That's GitHub. You got any other things you want to throw in or questions?
How important is GitHub in a programming interview?
Yeah, it's essential. It's like one of the top most important 3 things that companies want to see is your GitHub account. And then the other 2 are a mystery. I wish we knew what those other 2 were, but
probably
they want to see your
skills.
They want to see your GitHub account. They want to know that you are emotionally intelligent, right? That you have EQ, emotional quotient, not just IQ, but EQ, that you know how to get along with people, and that you don't like wear baseball caps backwards to work and sweats. And then they also want to know that you could code. So, and they'll have coding questions and things like that. So that's what they look for.
Please experiment with GitHub. We'll put out another video for Windows, but as was demonstrated here, you are not going to break anything by creating a repository. You can always delete it. Please come by, and if you're on campus, say hi to Todd McLeod and take his CIT 90 class.
Oh yeah.
Next semester.
Yeah, in the fall, I'm teaching CIT 90. And we're going to be doing Go, which is an amazing programming language. It's created at Google, has incredible credentials. It's getting a ton of traction. Biggest companies are adopting it. So it's the next big language. It's C for the 21st century. And we're going to be doing web programming with Go in the fall. It's going to be awesome. Sign up for CIT 90, data-driven websites. And in the interim, you could start taking my my Udemy course on Go. So if you just do Udemy Todd McLeod, you could come in here and click on Udemy Todd McLeod, and then here's my Go course. And this is going to make you programming strong. So it's all the fundamentals of programming. It's $50 to take this course. However, I will give you a discount code, and if you redeem a coupon. Now the coupon's going to change. So I'm going to make a coupon right now. And the coupon for you will be FCC, I don't know, Fresno City. The coupon's going to be Fresno City. And when you enter Fresno City, I'll go make that coupon code right now. Just click redeem a coupon, put in Fresno City. It'll give you the course for $25.
Great.
So half off. And yeah, and it's totally worth your time and money.
How long does the course last?
It's 20.5 hours, this one.
I mean, how much time do you have to use the course?
Oh, all your life.
All your life.
You have all your life. It doesn't expire. So once you pay for it, it's always there.
Okay. Thanks so much, Todd. This concludes our GitHub and Udemy and CIT 90 video.
Yeah, and your assignment, I think, is going to be to create a GitHub account.
That's right.
And put your code for the course into that account and push it all up to GitHub, and then send Dennis a link to your GitHub account, your GitHub repo. So you do GitHub goes to 11, and if it's like, this was the one I was using for this class, I just send him this link, and then Dennis is going to be able to look and see all of your code. It's going to be awesome.
All right. Thanks so much, Todd. Appreciate it.
All right, you're welcome.
Bye.